So some of my biggest critics are people who point out the fact that I've not always dealt with relationships. I wasn't born into psychology and relationships and doctorates and all that sort of stuff. And despite the fact that I've worked with thousands of relationships, a lot of people are surprised that before I started this journey, I actually worked in marketing. In fact, I worked in marketing for decades. But what people don't realize is that there's actually a massive crossover between relationships and marketing. So in this video, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to talk about the lessons for healthy relationships that I learned in my decades of marketing. So yes, there are a lot of people online who are doctors, who are psychologists, who have written books about relationships and things like that. And I get it, and I respect that. For me, I personally have learned a lot from a lot of these people. But the problem with a lot of this relationship advice is that it kind of works in a bit of a vacuum. It's not very real world applicable. And in fact, when you look at relationships and the principles behind them, you start to see how some of the theory can kind of fall apart a little bit. And, for me personally, in the marketing work that I did in my career before this, a lot of the principles and skills actually have a massive crossover with building healthy relationships. So I want to talk a little bit about this and look at the crossover between these skills and how they can help you to not only build, but repair relationships in a healthy way. So one of the first things is understanding empathy and active listening. So in marketing, you kind of start by knowing your audience. You ask a lot of questions, you listen to pain points, you use empathy, as in understanding them and putting yourself into their shoes to craft a message that is resonant to them. And this translates directly into relationship skills, treating your partner as an individual. And this is where a lot of the theory and psychology out there sort of falls apart a little bit, is that people can get put into boxes. This person is a narcissist. This person has bipolar or borderline personality. Women always do this. Men always do this. There's a lot of labels and it's not very personal. But the skill of empathy, active listening, and putting yourself into your partner's shoes helps you to treat your partner as an individual, listening to their individual concerns, asking what they need, getting to know them as an individual, and responding thoughtfully rather than treating them as some sort of label. I worked with Hollywood movie producers down to blogs and podcasts and everything in between. The pretty successful businesses who were really savvy with their marketing used these skills. They actually took the time to listen to their customers. They used empathy. They actively listened. They personalized communication to strengthen relationships. Marketing, when it's done well, is all about empathizing with your audience. It's not about selling them a product. And, when we speak about relationship repair specifically, a lot of people try to sell themselves rather than empathizing with their partner and understanding what they want, what they're after, and getting to the core of their needs. And this is a massive reminder that, putting yourself into another person's shoes is the key to all of this. And this is a skill to build. In practice, this is slowing down conversations, really hearing your partner's point of view rather than getting defensive. Once you start to understand the problem or the challenge, being able to break it down and craft a clear message as to how you propose to overcome it. In this way, you're learning about someone as an individual, and you're also looking at the problem separate. You're not taking anything personally. The companies that I worked with, the ones that did this best, always had a lot of data on their customers, on their key customers as individuals, because they knew what all of their core audience wanted, and they were able to directly communicate with them. And it was all through putting themselves into their shoes. People are more likely to buy what you're selling if they actually know that you give a shit, right? So this becomes a win-win. And this is where so many of the marketing skills relate to relationships. One of the other things about marketing is that the people who try to be everything to everyone always fail. It's not about being everything to everyone. It's about being the right person for the relationship. In marketing, the wider that you go, the more you try to chase popularity rather than personalization, the weaker the relationships you kind of get. And, in what I do, there's a lot of coaches out there that have a video pop off and then they chase that same number and they try and repeat that video. Sometimes they even get it. They manage to recreate that same video and they get tons of money, tons of clients and tons of subscribers. But then they struggle because these people that are coming in are maybe not the right fit for them. They want something different, and these businesses can end up drowning in trying to be everything to everyone. And this kind of becomes a bit like people pleasing, which I've spoken about a lot on this channel, is trying to be everything to everyone, saying yes to everything, and then drowning under the weight of all of that responsibility and being ineffective for everyone. So for me, this kind of relates to the original point. The more you understand people on an individual basis, the more you develop the best relationships, the stronger the relationship you develop. You know, when I work with people, I say no to most people who apply to work with me, not because I'm trying to be mean, but I want to focus on the people that are on the same page as me and how I work and what I want to do. And you know, all of the members that I work with one-on-one. I don't have sub-coach or co-coach. So I get to work closely with people and get much more real world insights as to what they're struggling with. So what I'm trying to say is that, you know, when it comes to relationships, especially for me in the business of relationships, is focusing on individuals is way stronger than trying to be everything to everyone, trying to get everyone to like you, trying to get everyone to listen to you. And in marketing, it's a lot of wasted money. You know, trying to do a wide campaign you end up burning through cash. But also one of the key things with marketing that crosses over with healthy relationships is clear, authentic communication. So just as good marketing relies on clarity and honesty, so do relationships. You know, in marketing, if what you're selling is kind of confusing or pretending it's something that it's not, or manipulative, it loses trust. And it's the same in relationships. If you're really unclear with what you're thinking, what your intent is, and you're holding back any concerns or anything like that, it breeds distrust. You know, if you say one thing and you're feeling something completely different, people can see it. People can feel it from you. And this is really important when it comes to relationship repair is, you know, a lot of people try to get in contact with their ex-partner to repair the relationship, and they try to fake this confidence, but internally they're not confident. So they're saying confident things, but then internally they're not very confident. And what happens is it actually causes more distrust because you're not saying what you're feeling. And this is one of the really important principles of marketing, is like making sure that you are clear and authentic in how you're showing up, because that's what builds trust. This is also why when it comes to some of these expert programs that you may have seen out there, they're kind of like pickup artisty kind of things, is that they don't teach you to be authentic. They teach you to play games. They give you kind of scripts and things to try to fake confidence or fake empathy or fake all of these skills that you're trying to develop in growth. So a lot of these expert things are reliant on kind of game playing, and your partner may not notice straight away, but over time they will notice, and it will break all trust. So being able to be upfront in a calm, kind way is really important in marketing and healthy relationships. And this allows your message to actually land with people rather than them trying to understand what you're thinking or trying to figure out what kind of game you're playing. Being authentic also means that if you don't know what people want, then ask. If you don't know what people are feeling, then ask. Don't pretend that you know more than you actually do. And it's the same with your partner. If you don't know what they're feeling, don't tell them what they're feeling, just ask them. This helps to build emotional safety. You know, in a partnership, it translates to asking your partner what they need instead of just guessing or pretending that you know best. At the end of the day, when it comes to relationships, you're trying to repair a relationship with another human being, not some vague label or vague group of people. It's the one-on-one connection that's most important. One of the most important concepts, especially building trust in relationships and marketing, is building trust through consistency. So this is one of the core marketing rules, is brand trust. No matter how great your product is, people won't buy it if they don't trust the brand. And this is something that comes up when it comes to relationship repair. When I worked in marketing, I learned that trust is broken very, very easily. But trust comes from consistency, comes from reliability, and it comes from transparency. In relationships, it's exactly the same thing. No matter how good your product is, if you're not consistent, if people don't know that you're going to follow through with your words or not, or you're unreliable, when your words and your actions don't line up, trust starts to get broken. So trust is always built through consistency, not control. So this means following through on promises, showing up when you say you will, being honest even when it's hard, admitting mistakes. This is like building your own personal brand. It's building a brand loyalty for yourself, but it happens in small instances. This is not being reliable through spending $1,000 on a really nice dinner and then not giving a shit for 2 weeks. That's not consistency. That's inconsistency. So if you're consistently showing up calmly, following through on your words, building that safe environment for your partner, that helps to repair and rebuild a relationship. Over time, as this trust builds, it becomes a lot easier to be able to predict a strong future because they're not having to worry whether you're going to be on one of your off days. And this is what I work on with members a lot, is building this consistency through your actions, through the way that you communicate, through the way that you show up. This is really big. When you're trying to repair a relationship, building consistency in the right ways, in the effective ways, is the only way that the relationship is going to be repaired moving forward. Now, obviously, I can't dig too deep into all of these concepts, but if you do want to start your journey and start digging in deeper into understanding relationships, how they work, and the fundamentals on how to regrow and repair them, then join my relationship bootcamp, where you'll learn the same fundamental steps that all of my members start with before we start working together. If you want to jump in, click on the link in the description to grab your spot. But most of all, one of the biggest crossovers between marketing and relationships is all about stories. So marketing, especially today, is all about personalization. The most successful marketers don't broadcast generic slogans, right? They create a story that feels tailored to each person. And this is directly applicable to relationships. When it comes to rebuilding connection, oftentimes people can learn scripts, people can learn tactics, but connection is built on sharing. So when it comes to connecting with another person, sharing your experience is just as important as understanding their experience. Now, a lot of this is done through validation. I've done a deeper dive on validation, which I'll link to on the screen in the description down below. But when you are validating someone, that's not only being able to say, hey, I can understand what you're feeling and that's valid. It's also about being able to bring in your experience into that validation as well, to basically show them, hey, I've been through this as well, so I kind of know how it feels. That is one of the core concepts of being able to connect and rebuild a relationship with someone, being able to build that shared experience between you both. So it's not necessarily the shared experience of the event that they've been through, but the feeling that they experienced in that event. So for example, let's say your partner is having a rough time at work. Being able to connect with them, not on the event of having a rough time at work, but the feeling that they're feeling. Maybe they feel abandoned. Maybe they feel let down because they were promised a promotion. It's the core feeling that builds the connection. And that is the personalization of relationships. This is the personalization, is being able to share your emotional experience with them so that they can feel understood. And that is where good marketing is, because it's genuine. It's from a place of truth. So I won't dig too much into it here, but I'll leave you with that deeper dive video on validation, and I will see you over there.